The art of managing your energy. Why do you always feel drained? Have you ever had a day where at the end of it, you ask yourself, I didn't really do much, so why am I so tired? Not the kind of tiredness that comes from physical work, but a kind of exhaustion that's hard to describe. A sense of emptiness, a feeling as if something inside you has been drained. You don't feel like doing anything. You don't want to think anymore. Sometimes, you don't even want to continue. The strange thing is, you still eat normally. You still get enough sleep. You're not overworking yourself. And yet, you're still tired. And then you begin to doubt yourself. Am I weak? Am I not as capable as others? Am I doing something wrong in life? But the truth is, you are not weak. You are just leaking energy. Every single day. We are living in a time where everything moves fast. Information never stops. Work has no real ending point. And expectations keep increasing. You are not only living for yourself, you are living under the eyes of others. You wake up and your mind is already running. Things you have to do, messages you haven't replied to, goals you haven't achieved. You haven't even taken a breath, but you're already stressed. You pick up your phone, just for a few minutes, but then you get pulled into another world. A world where everyone seems more successful than you, happier than you, and somehow living a better life than you. You start comparing, not because you want to, but because your mind is pulled into it. And in that moment, a part of your energy disappears. You don't notice it. But every time you worry about the future, imagine negative outcomes, or blame yourself, you are consuming energy, not through action, but through thought. There is something no one really tells you. Thinking also consumes energy. And sometimes, it consumes even more than physical effort. You can sit still all day, but if your mind never stops, you will still feel exhausted. Think about a time when you worried too much. A small issue, but you thought about it for hours. You imagined different scenarios. You created pressure for yourself. And when everything was over, you felt tired. Not because it was difficult, but because you had spent too much energy in your mind. That is how your energy gets drained, every single day. But the problem doesn't stop there. Modern life doesn't just make you tired. It makes you get used to being tired. You begin to think, being tired is normal. Everyone is like this. But no, constant exhaustion is not natural. It is a sign that you are living out of balance. Maybe you are doing too many unimportant things, thinking too much about unnecessary matters, or living according to other people's expectations. And every time you do that, you lose a part of your energy. Imagine your energy like water in a container. Every day, you wake up with a certain amount. If you use it wisely, you will feel fulfilled. But if the container is leaking, no matter how much you pour in, it will never be enough. So what are those leaks? They are unnecessary worries, self-comparison, constant distraction, and prolonged negative emotions. You cannot see them, but you feel their consequences every day. The most dangerous part is, you can live like this for years without realizing it. You get used to always being busy, always being stressed, and always feeling low on energy. You think that's just life, but in reality, it's just a way of living, and it can be changed. Because your energy doesn't just disappear. It is scattered, wasted, or taken away without your awareness. When you understand this, a door begins to open. You stop asking, how do I get more energy? And you start asking, where am I losing my energy? And that is the question that changes everything. Because when you find the answer, you don't need to become stronger. You just need to stop doing what is making you weaker. Sometimes the biggest transformation is not about adding more, but about removing things. Removing repetitive negative thoughts, unnecessary concerns, things that drain your focus. And when you do that, your energy will naturally return. No forcing, no struggle, just awareness, just noticing how you've been losing it all along. And maybe right now, as you are listening to this, you are beginning to realize something, that your exhaustion is not random. It is the result of what you think, what you focus on, and how you live each day. And if the cause can be understood, then the solution will appear. But before we go further, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, right now, where is my energy? Because the journey of mastering your energy does not begin by changing the outside world. It begins with something much simpler, becoming aware of yourself. Where your energy really goes, after you begin to notice that your energy is not infinite, a deeper question quietly appears. If I am always tired, where exactly is my energy going? At first, you might think the answer is obvious. Work, responsibilities, daily pressure. But if you look closer, you may realize something unexpected. It's not what you do that drains you the most. It's what you carry in your mind while doing it. Two people can live the same day, same job, same tasks, same environment. But one ends the day fulfilled. The other ends it exhausted. Why? Because energy is not only spent through action, it is spent through internal friction. Internal friction is invisible, but it is always there. It happens when you do something you don't want to do. You think about something you cannot control. You resist what is already happening. Every time you say in your mind, I don't want this. This shouldn't be happening. Why is this happening to me? You are creating resistance. And resistance is one of the fastest ways to drain energy. Think about it. Have you ever felt more tired arguing in your head than actually solving a real problem? That's because your mind is fighting reality, and that fight has no end. The more you resist, the more energy you lose. But resistance is only one part of the story. There is something even more subtle, something most people never notice. Attention leakage. Your attention is like a beam of light. Where it goes, energy follows. But in today's world, your attention is constantly being pulled in different directions. Notifications, messages, social media, news. Every time your attention shifts, a small piece of your energy goes with it. It doesn't feel like much, but it adds up. Imagine trying to focus on one task, but every few minutes, you check your phone. You switch tabs. You think about something else. You come back, then drift away again. By the end of it, you feel tired. Not because the task was hard, but because your energy was fragmented. This is how modern life quietly drains you. Not through intensity, but through constant interruption. And over time, your mind adapts to this pattern. You become used to scattered thinking, short attention, endless distraction. You lose the ability to stay with one thing. And when that happens, your energy can never fully gather. Because focus is what concentrates energy. Without focus, energy becomes weak. But there is another layer, even deeper than attention. Emotional residue. Every emotion you experience leaves a trace. If it is processed, it flows through you. If it is suppressed, it stays. Unfinished emotions become weight, and that weight consumes energy silently. Think about the last time something upset you. Maybe you didn't express it. Maybe you ignored it. But later, you still felt heavy, still felt tired. That is emotional residue. It doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. It stays in your system, and it continues to drain energy. in the background. Over time, this builds up. Stress, frustration, fear, disappointment, layer by layer, until one day you feel exhausted for no clear reason. But the reason is there. It's just been accumulating, quietly. And then there is one more place where your energy disappears, living a life that is not aligned with you. This is the deepest form of energy loss, because it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal. You wake up, you follow routines, you do what you are supposed to do. But inside, something feels off. Not wrong enough to stop, but not right enough to feel alive. This creates a constant low-level drain, like a background noise that never turns off. You don't notice it immediately, but over time, it takes everything from you. Because energy flows best when there is meaning. When what you do matters to you, energy increases naturally. But when you live disconnected from yourself, everything feels heavier. Everything takes more effort. Even simple things become tiring. So now, if you look again at your question, where is my energy going? You may begin to see the answer more clearly. Your energy is not only going to work, responsibilities, daily tasks. It is going to resistance, distraction, unprocessed emotions, misalignment. And once you see this, something changes. Because now, you don't need to fix your whole life. You just need to stop the leaks. Not all at once, but one by one. You reduce resistance by accepting what is already here. You protect your attention by choosing what deserves your focus. You release emotional weight by allowing yourself to feel and process. And you reconnect with yourself by asking simple, honest questions. What truly matters to me? What feels real? What feels right? These questions don't need immediate answers, but they begin to guide your energy back to where it belongs. And slowly, something shifts. You don't feel as drained. You don't feel as scattered. Not because life became easier, but because you stopped fighting it in unnecessary ways. And that is when you realize energy is not something you chase. It is something you protect. It is not about doing more. It is about losing less. And as you continue this journey, you begin to experience something rare, a sense of stability. Not constant happiness, not endless motivation, but a quiet, steady energy that stays with you. And from that place, you can finally begin rebuilding your energy from within. Deep work. There is a point where understanding is no longer enough. You already know where your energy is going, what is draining you, why you feel the way you feel. But knowing does not change your state, because energy is not intellectual. It is experiential. You don't rebuild energy by thinking differently alone. You rebuild it by living differently, moment by moment. And this is where the real work begins. Not outside, but inside. The illusion of fixing yourself. Most people approach energy the wrong way. They think, I need to improve myself. I need to become better. I need to fix what's broken. But here is the truth. You are not broken. What you feel is the result of disconnection. Disconnection from your body, your breath, your attention, your inner truth. So rebuilding energy is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning. Returning to a state that has always been available, but buried under noise, pressure, and unconscious patterns. Rebuilding starts with slowing down. There is something uncomfortable about slowing down, because when you slow down, you begin to feel. And feeling is something most people avoid. That's why we stay busy. That's why we distract ourselves. Not because we have to, but because stillness reveals what we've been ignoring. But here's the paradox. You cannot rebuild energy while running away from yourself. So the first step is simple. Slow down. Not your whole life, just moments. 1 minute, 2 minutes, where you do nothing. No phone, no input, no distraction, just being. At first, it will feel strange, maybe even uncomfortable. But if you stay, something begins to happen. Your system starts to settle. And when your system settles, energy begins to return. The nervous system reset. Your energy is deeply connected to your nervous system. If your nervous system is constantly activated, you will always feel tired, even if you rest, even if you sleep, because your body is never truly relaxed. This is why many people wake up tired, not because they didn't sleep, but because they never recovered. Recovery happens when your system feels safe. And safety is not just physical, it is internal. You can be in a safe place, but if your mind is racing, your body still feels under threat. So how do you reset it? Through small, consistent signals of safety. Slow breathing, gentle awareness, soft attention, not forcing calm, but allowing it. Over time, your system learns something new. It's okay to relax, and when that happens, energy starts to rebuild naturally. The power of doing less. This may sound counterintuitive, but one of the most powerful ways to restore energy is to do less. Not laziness, not avoidance, but intentional reduction. Right now, your life may be filled with too many inputs, too many decisions, too many obligations. Every one of these requires energy. Even small decisions consume mental resources. So what happens when you reduce them? Energy becomes available again. This is why simplicity is powerful. Not because life becomes easier, but because your energy is no longer scattered. Ask yourself, what can I remove that is not truly necessary? Not everything, just one thing. And notice how your energy responds. Reconnecting with natural rhythms. Your body has rhythms, natural cycles of energy, rest, focus, recovery. But modern life ignores these rhythms. You are expected to be productive all the time, stay alert constantly, push beyond your limits, and over time, you lose connection with your natural flow. Rebuilding energy means relearning how to listen. When your body is tired, rest. When your mind is clear, focus. When your energy rises, create. This sounds simple, but it requires awareness because you've been trained to override these signals. Now you begin to trust them again. And when you do, energy stops feeling forced. It becomes aligned. Emotional energy integration. Earlier, you learned about emotional residue. Now we go deeper. Emotions are not the problem. Unprocessed emotions are. Every emotion carries energy. If you suppress it, that energy stays trapped. If you express it unconsciously, it creates chaos. But if you observe it consciously, it transforms. This is the key. Next time you feel something intense, don't react immediately. Don't suppress it either. Just observe. Where do you feel it in your body? What does it actually feel like? Tightness? Heat? Pressure? Stay with it, without labeling it as good or bad. And slowly, it begins to move, because energy wants to flow. When it flows, it releases. And when it releases, you feel lighter. Not because the emotion disappeared, but because it was processed. Building energy through meaning. There is one source of energy that is often overlooked. Meaning. When something matters to you, You have energy, even if it's difficult, even if it requires effort. But when something feels empty, even the smallest task feels heavy. This is why alignment matters. Energy is not only physical, it is directional. It flows stronger when it has purpose. So ask yourself, what gives me a sense of meaning? Not what impresses others, not what looks good, but what feels real, even if it's small. Follow that, and you will notice something. Energy increases, not instantly, but steadily. The shift from control to awareness. At the beginning, you try to control your energy. You try to fix everything, optimize everything, manage every detail. But over time, you realize something deeper. Energy does not respond well to force. It responds to awareness. The more aware you are of your breath, of your thoughts, of your emotions, the more naturally energy stabilizes. Because awareness prevents unconscious loss. And this is the shift. From controlling to understanding. From forcing to allowing. A new relationship with energy. At some point, your relationship with energy changes. You no longer see it as something limited. You begin to see it as something dynamic. Something that expands, contracts, flows, and your role is not to force it, but to work with it, to listen, to adjust, to align. And when you do, energy becomes stable, not perfect, but reliable. And from that place, you can begin to live differently, not chasing energy, but living in a way that sustains it. Take a breath, feel your body, notice your state, not judging, not changing, just noticing. Because this, right here, is where rebuilding begins. Rebuilding your energy, the inner shift. There is a moment in this journey when something subtle begins to change, not outside. That you are no longer reacting the same way. Things that used to drain you no longer have the same power. Situations that once overwhelmed you now feel manageable. And this doesn't happen suddenly. It happens quietly, through small shifts, repeated again and again and again. The practice of returning, at the core of rebuilding energy. There is one simple practice, returning to your breath, your body, the present moment, not once, but many times. Because you will get lost, your mind will wander, your attention will drift, your emotions will pull you away. That's normal. The goal is not to stay present forever. The goal is to come back. Every time you leave, each return is like gathering a piece of your energy back. And over time, those pieces begin to form something whole again. Breaking the habit of mental noise. Most people live inside constant noise. Not external noise, internal noise. Thoughts that never stop. Questions without answers. Imaginary conversations. Endless analysis. This noise consumes energy continuously, even when you are doing nothing. So one of the deepest practices is learning to sit with silence. At first, silence feels uncomfortable because without noise, you feel exposed. But if you stay with it, something shifts. Silence becomes space. And in that space, your energy begins to settle. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped disturbing it, letting go of the need to control everything. There is another hidden drain on your energy, the need to control everything, to control outcomes, to control how others see you, to control what happens next. This creates tension, constant tension, because reality is unpredictable. And when you try to control the uncontrollable, you create resistance. and resistance drains energy. So part of rebuilding energy is learning to release control, not completely, but wisely. Focus on what you can influence. Let go of what you cannot. This single shift can save you an enormous amount of energy. Trusting the process, there will be days when you don't feel progress, days when you feel tired again, days when old patterns return. This is part of the process. Energy rebuilding is not linear. It moves in waves, sometimes forward, sometimes back. But every moment of awareness still counts, even when it doesn't feel like it. So instead of asking, "Why am I not better yet?" ask, "Am I more aware than before?" Because awareness is the real transformation, creating inner stability. Over time, something begins to stabilize. Not your circumstances, but your inner state. You are no longer easily shaken. Not because life became easier, but because your energy is no longer fragile. It is grounded. You can feel stress without being consumed by it. You can experience emotion without losing yourself in it. You can face challenges without collapsing. And this is the difference between having energy and being rooted in energy, living with intentional energy. At this stage, you begin to live differently. You become more intentional, not in a rigid way, but in a conscious way. You start to notice what drains you, what restores you, what truly matters, and your choices begin to reflect that. You say no more easily. You protect your time. You choose depth over distraction, not because you force discipline, but because you feel the cost of losing energy, and you no longer want to pay it. Energy is a way of living. Eventually, energy is no longer something you think about. It becomes part of how you live. You don't need constant reminders. You don't need strict systems. You simply breathe more consciously, move more naturally, think more clearly, feel more honestly, and this creates a life that supports your energy instead of draining it. The quiet transformation. If you look back, you may not see a dramatic change. No sudden breakthrough, no single defining moment, but something has changed. You feel lighter, clearer, more stable, and most importantly, more yourself. Because in rebuilding your energy, you didn't just gain strength. You removed everything that was not truly you. Pause, take a moment, and notice where you are now. Not physically, but internally. Are you calmer? Are you more aware? Even just a little. That is enough. Because energy is not built in one moment. It is built in every moment you choose to return. Closing reflection. You started this journey feeling drained, confused, disconnected. And now, you are beginning to see energy is not something outside of you. It is something you are constantly shaping through attention, awareness, choice, and the more conscious you become, the more your energy reflects that. Not perfect, but real. And that is more powerful than anything else. Pause. In the next part, we will go even deeper. Not just rebuilding energy, but using it to create a life with clarity and direction. Directing your energy, creating a life with intention. There comes a point when your energy is no longer scattered. You are no longer constantly tired, no longer lost in endless distraction. You feel more stable, more aware, and naturally, a new question arises. If I now have energy, what do I do with it? Because energy alone is not enough. Without direction, energy becomes restless. It looks for something to attach to, something to chase, something to fill the space. And if you are not conscious, you will fall back into old patterns. Not because you are weak, but because energy needs direction. The difference between movement and direction. Many people are active, busy, productive, always doing something. But activity is not the same as direction. You can move all day and still go nowhere, because movement without direction is just motion. Direction is different. It answers one simple question: why am I doing this? Not for others, not for appearance, but for you. When your energy has direction, everything changes. Even small actions feel meaningful. Even difficult tasks feel worth it, because they are connected to something deeper. Defining what truly matters. This is where many people struggle, because they've never really asked, what actually matters to me? Not what sounds good, not what looks impressive, but what feels true. This requires honesty, and honesty can be uncomfortable, because sometimes what you've been chasing is not what you truly want. But this realization is not a loss. It is clarity. And clarity is one of the most powerful forms of energy. So take your time with this. Ask yourself, if I removed expectations, what would I choose? If no one was watching, what would matter to me? Don't rush the answer. Let it emerge. Because once it does, your energy will follow it. Energy flows where meaning exists. You don't need motivation. When something matters deeply, you don't need discipline to do what feels aligned. Energy flows naturally toward meaning. This is why some people can work for hours without feeling drained. Not because they are stronger, but because they are connected. Connection creates energy. Disconnection drains it. So instead of forcing yourself to do more, focus on doing what matters, even if it's less, even if it's slower, because depth is more powerful than speed. The power of focused energy. Once you have direction, the next step is focus. Energy without focus is weak. Energy with focus is powerful. Think of sunlight. Spread out, it warms. Focused, it burns. Your energy works the same way. When you focus deeply, you enter a different state. Time fades, distraction disappears, and your energy becomes fully engaged. This is where real creation happens. Not in scattered effort, but in deep, uninterrupted attention. This is why protecting your focus is essential, not as a rule, but as a priority. Because where your focus goes, your life follows. Saying no to protect your energy. As your awareness grows, you begin to see something clearly. Not everything deserves your energy, and this changes how you live. You become more selective. You start saying no, not out of rejection, but out of clarity. Every yes you give is energy you commit. So you choose carefully. You ask, is this worth my energy? And if the answer is no, you let it go without guilt. Because protecting your energy is not selfish. It is necessary. Building a life that supports your energy. At this stage, you stop trying to manage energy within a draining life. Instead, you begin to build a life that supports your energy. This means creating space for rest, choosing environments that feel right, surrounding yourself with people who don't drain you. It doesn't happen all at once, but gradually, choice by choice, and over time, your external world begins to reflect your internal state. Not perfectly, but noticeably. From reaction to creation. Before, you reacted to life. Circumstances decided your state. Now, you begin to create, not controlling everything, but influencing your direction. You become intentional. You choose where to place your energy, what to focus on, what to let go, and this creates a powerful shift. You are no longer being pulled. You are moving with purpose. The responsibility of awareness. With awareness comes responsibility, not pressure, but responsibility. Because now you see what drains you. You see what matters. And once you see, you cannot unsee. So you choose again and again. Not perfectly, but consciously. And every conscious choice strengthens your energy. Living with clarity, eventually, your life becomes clearer. Not because everything is solved, but because you know what matters, what doesn't, where you are going. And clarity reduces noise. It reduces doubt. It reduces wasted energy. Because you are no longer scattered between too many directions. You are centered. And from that center, your energy becomes powerful. Closing reflection. Take a moment. Look at your life. Not everything, just one part. Ask yourself, am I giving my energy to what truly matters? If the answer is yes, you are on the right path. If the answer is no, you now have the awareness to change it. Slowly, one choice at a time. Because your life is not shaped by big moments. It is shaped by where your energy goes. Every day. In the next part, we will bring everything together. Not just understanding, not just rebuilding, not just directing, but mastering your energy as a way of being. Mastering your energy, becoming the source. There is a final shift. A shift that is not about doing more, not about improving yourself, not about becoming someone else. You were never separate from your energy. You were never lacking it. You were only unaware of how you were using it. The illusion of finding energy. For a long time, you may have believed that energy is something you need to find. Something outside of you. Something that comes from motivation, inspiration, external success. But now you see differently. Energy is not something you chase. It is something you allow or block. Every moment, you are either aligned or resisting, aware or distracted, present or lost, and that determines everything. You become the source. At this stage, you stop depending on conditions. You no longer say, "I'll feel better when things improve," because you understand your state does not come from the outside. It comes from how you relate to what is happening. And this changes everything. Because now, you become the source. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, stable way. You don't wait for energy. You generate it through alignment, living without constant struggle. Before, life felt like effort. You had to push, to force, to keep going. Now, something softens, not because life is easier, but because you are no longer fighting it. You move with it. You adapt. You respond instead of react. And this removes a massive amount of hidden resistance, which means a massive amount of energy is freed. The end of inner conflict. One of the greatest drains of energy is inner conflict. Wanting one thing, but doing another. Feeling one way, but pretending something else. Thinking something, but ignoring it. This creates division. And divided energy is weak energy. But when you become aware, you begin to align. Not perfectly, but honestly. You listen to yourself. You respect your signals. You adjust your actions. And slowly, the conflict fades. When there is no inner conflict, energy flows freely. Simplicity becomes power. At the beginning of this journey, everything felt complicated. So many techniques, so many ideas, so many things to fix. But now, you see something different. It's simple. Not easy, but simple. Breathe. Notice. Return. Choose. Again. And again. And again. This is the practice. Not perfection, but consistency. You don't lose yourself anymore. Before, you could lose yourself easily. In stress, in emotion, in distraction. Now, even when things get intense, you remain aware, not detached, but grounded. You feel without being consumed. You think without getting lost. You act without forcing. And this is mastery, not control, but stability within movement. Energy becomes your foundation. At this point, energy is no longer something you think about daily. It becomes your foundation. Like breathing, like being. You naturally protect it, restore it, direct it, without overthinking, without effort, because it has become part of who you are. Living with awareness, the final stage, is not about reaching a destination. It is about living with awareness. Every moment is a choice. Not a heavy choice, but a subtle one. Do you stay present or drift away? Stay aligned or resist? Stay aware or react unconsciously? And each choice shapes your energy, the quiet power. This path does not make you louder. It does not make you more dramatic. It makes you quieter, clearer, stronger in a calm way. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to chase validation, because your energy is stable, and stability is power. Closing the journey, take a deep breath and reflect, not on what you learned, but on what you feel now. Even if it's just a little more aware, more calm, more connected, that is enough. Because this journey was never about becoming perfect. It was about coming back to yourself. Final words. Your energy is your life. Where it goes, your life follows. So don't rush. Don't force. Just stay aware. Protect what matters. Let go of what doesn't, and return again and again to yourself. Because in the end, you don't master energy. You simply stop losing yourself. And when that happens, everything else falls into place. If what you've just heard resonated with you, please support us by liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications to continue the journey with Inner World in the episodes to come. And who knows, your one share might reach someone who truly needs it.